Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to this week's The Duchenne Method Live. I am so happy that you're here. Hi, everyone. If you want to write a little comment, say good morning, let me know you're here. I am broadcasting from my sister's home in Montreal today, and I am in my niece's working space. My niece is an artist, and she creates these magnificent, I wish I had a piece to show you, these magnificent pieces of artwork and quilts. She is a quilter. And anyways, she bestowed upon me the great privilege of being able to broadcast from her studio this morning. So I'm really happy that you're here. Welcome. And we're going to explore this topic of addiction and consumption this morning. And I wanted to, bonjour, hey, hello, Karine. That's awesome. My niece is here. Thank you for being here. Wonderful to have you with us. And I want to talk about the art of addiction and consumption. What about addiction and consumption? And not necessarily in the way of only relating it to drugs or alcohol. I am talking about a little bit of a different twist on the relationship to addiction and consumption. In particular, what I find super relevant right now is the relationship to addiction and consumption in relationship to our thoughts, to our levels of anxiety, to how we find ourselves getting caught between a rock and a hard place when it comes to our habitual ways of thinking and of being in life. So, hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Please say hello in the comment just to let me know you're here. It's really helpful for me to know who's here because then I can have more of an interaction with you. So please go ahead and say hi. Welcome to our weekly live. A few questions that I asked when I posted about this week's topic in our Duchenne Method Facebook group were the following. What are your essentials in life and what are your add-ons? So meaning, what is it that you need to live a healthy, strong, loving life, to be secure and grounded in your life? What is it that you need? And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. For me, in order to maintain health, alignment, clarity, acuity of mind, I need to exercise at least 5 to 6 times per week. I need to go to the gym, but it's not just the exercise, I want to say. I go because I want to be in relationship with others. I want to be in a space of socialization with others. In addition, of course, to working out really hard. I have an amazing coach and group fitness teacher. That's my seat that just went down. Group fitness teacher, Ilaria Montagnani. She is the person that I train with at Equinox in New York City. She is amazing and has recruited an incredible amount of people around her. So the energy is extraordinary. And for me, that is something that is necessary in my life. I must make the time to exercise in group fitness circles. I'm not really great at going to the gym and lifting weights on my own. That is not something that feeds me in the same way. So I would say that my group fitness exercising and to maintain health in this way is something that's necessary for me. What might be an add-on, right? Going back to the question I asked you in reference to addiction and consumption, what are your essentials in life? What do you need to survive, to be in good health? And then what are your add-ons? Well, the add-ons for me when I go to the gym, for example, is the steam room, is the hot tub, is the jacuzzi. Those are add-ons that really make me feel better. They're additional things that I really love. Could I do without them in my training system? Yes, of course. The training, I cannot. The training is essential. An add-on is, the treats, the extras, the pro shop where I can buy a nice workout outfit. Those are add-ons. So I want to ask you this morning, What is essential for you in your life? What are essentials? Is your daily meditation essential? Is writing in your journal essential? Is having your delicious cup of tea or coffee essential? Or are those add-ons, meaning that you can have a perfectly healthy life without having those things? So you see, this is in the way that I want to talk about consumption and addiction, not so much if you're addicted to smoking or if you're an alcoholic or you're drinking alcohol all the time. Yes, that certainly is an important component of it. But what I have found to be more and more recurring in these times, I'm talking post-COVID, is the level of anxiety and fear that is living in our bodies because so much has shifted and changed. Even if in your personal life, in your experience of life, not so much seems to have shifted and changed, there is an energy in the air. There's an energy in the air. Something is not the same as it was before. And this is a really, really good time to look at our addictions, and particularly our addiction to consumption. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that, which is our addiction to shopping online. That's an addiction to consumption because you're amassing more things. If you turn around in your life, in your home, there's always something that's missing, isn't there? There's always a new bath mat that you could be purchasing, or a beautiful candle for your living room table, or some other book that you want to read, but you have about 15 books on your bookshelf that you have not read yet. That's what I'm talking about. Our addictions to consuming more, thinking that we will be happier, we'll be more fulfilled, that somehow gaining more acquisition, things, materials, a lot of the time because we're bored. How many times do you get on your cell phone and you start scrolling because you're bored, and before you know it, you're stuck. You're stuck in the matrix of your phone, especially if you're on Instagram, on TikTok. It's just a quick fix. And this is a very interesting thing. I have to tell you, even for myself, as someone who has chosen to do these lives every week and to be with you anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes, because this is a long format, isn't it? And those of you who show up and who take the time to be here and explore the deep dive, go a little bit further in to see what is this addiction and consumption conversation that we're having, instead of flipping your phone on Instagram and reading quotes of why you've been traumatized or what to do about your trauma. Our entire society is addicted to consuming quick fixes. This, to me, is still kind of a quick fix because we're only here for an hour or less. But it's still a lot more time that we're spending together than being on your phone and going through picking up quotes that hopefully give you a little bit of a boost that makes you feel better in an instant. And I'm not saying those are not helpful. I'm saying that part of why we are falling into becoming unaware, out of alignment with addiction and consumption, is because the norm of rapidity, the norm of flicking, of thumbing, of getting quick fixes is becoming omnipresent. We don't really want to invest the time in deepening our understanding of things overall because there's this relationship that we don't have time to do that, which of course is a complete fallacy. And you might argue with me and say, no, Anne-Marie, I really don't have time to do this, or I can't go back and listen to the recording. Listen, we must choose what is most important for us in life. We must decide what it is that we need to plant and grow and culture and tend to rather, so that it grows into something that builds us from the inside out, that softens our heart, that makes us enjoy life more in the moment, as opposed to constantly grasping for quick fixes and going for the quotes that make us feel better. That's kind of, that's a shot, right? Oh, your trauma happened because when you were growing up, your parents were emotionally absent. I totally get that, 100% correct. And from that point, where are you going to choose to invest your energy into discovering more around that for yourself? Is it sitting with me for an hour? Is it finding a group, a therapy group that you could sit with to find support? Is it you taking time in your own life to really, hey, hello, my sister-in-law and brother are here. Thank you. See, this is my family. My family shows up for my lives. I love you guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. So you have the option, the choice to really focus on what's more important to you and where might you want to invest your energy to grow yourself in your life, to live a more fulfilled, loving, calm, connected life. And addiction to consumption, really, I'm bringing this up this week because I'm seeing it more and more in my own practice. And people are feeling out of alignment. They're feeling out of balance because there's too much information out there. Isn't that something? We thought that technology was really going to help us to get more educated, would facilitate things, and on many levels, it does. And it also has created an environment where we're consuming. Amazon is the best example of this. How easy is it to buy something on Amazon and get it delivered the next day at your doorstep? There's nothing wrong if you might need that. But because we're in this culture of constantly consuming more and more, this has become the norm. And so we're disconnecting from the deeper part of ourselves as to what's most important and what will be most useful to you moving forward in your life to build yourself from the inside out, to cultivate more love, more connection, more compassion with people that you love in your life. And I'll tell you from my own experience as I'm getting older, this is really something that I am exploring deeply because I feel like, based on my work, based on working with my clients, based on what I'm finding in people's bodies, is that the tension is so profound that people have lost even a sensibility around their bodies to really be able to feel what's happening for them. How do we integrate this information in our bodies? And so there's a total disconnect between what's really happening and between how we put up fences or parameters or armors around us so as not to feel. Because feeling has become too painful. And there's an addiction to not wanting to feel. In a sense, that's a protective mechanism. So if I can maintain a sense of protection for myself, I don't have to feel anything. And if I don't have to feel anything, I don't have to be vulnerable. And if I don't have to be vulnerable, I don't have to really invest into intimate relationships. And I'm not talking about intimate relationships with your lover or your boyfriend, husband, wife. That's one part of intimate relationship. I'm talking about intimate relationship first and foremost with yourself, to be able to have a space for you on a daily basis and to really start to notice what are your essentials? What do you really need in life to be happy? And I want to challenge that we need very little in life to be really happy. I think the number one thing that's necessary is love and connection and support with family and friends and students and clients. That's all important. And then what are the add-ons? Where are we adding on in our life to kind of compensate for what we think we need? So I hope this is making sense. I want to really impart this place. This is a little bit of a complex conversation, a little bit more of a complex topic that I'm bringing to the fore this week, because I don't want to keep it to the idea of addiction to drugs and alcohol. That's one thing. There's also addiction to food, right? Because we eat to fill a void in our system. And I'm certainly guilty of that, right? If ever I feel lonely or if I feel like I need to reward myself, a big reward for me is to eat something to fill that void that I have inside. The distinction at this point in my life is that I can recognize when that shows up as such. So I'm not unconsciously grasping for things to fill me up, that I'm unconscious about it. I'm conscious about it, and I might still decide to do it, but there's a far difference between doing things, grasping for things unconsciously, rather than actually going for something because you know you want to do this in this moment and it will help you to feel better in that moment. Because when you make that relationship and you become conscious of your addictions, they actually lose their charge. They are not as powerful as when you're unconscious around it. Very simple example, smoking. You have a need in your body and you want to smoke. There's nothing wrong with smoking. If that's where you are in your life, I'm not making smoking wrong. I'm suggesting that if you are more conscious around the moment that you take that cigarette and you bring it to your mouth, and instead of doing it as an automatic action, that you actually take a moment to consider why you're doing it. And it's not like you're not going to do it, but it changes the charge of the action because you're moving into more awareness around that particular action. I hope that that makes sense. If it makes sense to you, put a 1 in the comment. And if it doesn't make sense to you, put a 2 in the comments. So I get a sense of who's tracking me, who's with me along with this. And it's not so much about agreeing with me. It's more about if you are following what I'm sharing. So I'm going to go into a little bit of sharing with you some research that I did on this. And again, taking the idea of addiction and consumption in relationship to patterns that we have, things that we usually do that might not be necessary, and that where we might be unconscious of them. So really my call to action for you today, my invitation for you today is clearly to practice more awareness in the moment, a mindful awareness, mindful presence in the moment, to slow down and to just tap in to what you're feeling at any given time, especially if you find yourself responding to your environment in an habitual pattern. It's not easy work, you know. You really have to take a step back and to really check in with yourself and to see what you are feeling in the moment. And the power of moving into feeling in the moment is that, first of all, you get to know, thank you for the 1, appreciate it. If you take notice and if you slow down and connect to how you're feeling in your body, you're going to start to get to know yourself better. You're going to start to appreciate yourself a little bit better because you're taking this stance, this position of being in the present moment. It is so easy to get pulled out of the present moment. It certainly happens to me all the time. And I keep practicing. See, the work that we're doing here is not about an instant fix. It's not about looking on Instagram for another quote that's going to make us feel better, although there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm inviting you into is a daily practice of mindful awareness so that you might get into connection with yourself on a deeper level, that you might start a practice of loving kindness towards yourself. So more acceptance about who you are, more acceptance about what you do, and finding time in between to forgive yourself if you are out of alignment on any given day. That's okay. We're human. This is why I'm calling this a practice and a process. We can fall off our chair, our couch. We can fall off on any given day, and maybe many times a day. That's human. That's normal. How do we move forward from falling off? You know, sometimes we'll say something to someone, or we'll be in an environment where we say something and then you feel like, oh, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have said that, or I could have done better there. That's the piece I'm talking about. And that includes how you speak to yourself, to really practice speaking to yourself from a heart of compassion. Forgive yourself if you said or did something that wasn't nice or appropriate at that given time. That's the practice. Because the more you go into that level of personal forgiveness and being in the moment and aware and mindful with yourself, the better you get at being in mindful communication with others. And that's it. Mindful awareness is what heightens our level of happiness in life, because we're more aware of our choices. We're more aware of how we communicate with others. We're more aware of the choices we make in relationship to what we want to cultivate more in our life. And in so doing, that limits the distractions. It limits the quick fixes, to spend more time nurturing your heart of compassion. And when we do that, what happens, of course, is that we tend to naturally be invited to support others in the same way. So now not only are you more mindful and more loving towards yourself, but that acts as a mirror, right? And so now you start to spread more love and compassion to other people around you, especially to those people that are the pokey ones in your life. We all have pokey people in our lives. We all have a history of something that hurt us or betrayed us. And so the idea is to cultivate this relationship with loving kindness towards the self. Because when we practice that, the tendency to consume unconsciously is diminished. We don't keep going in the same way. It doesn't mean that we don't have a good time. It doesn't mean that our life is not as fulfilled. In fact, it gets more fulfilled. Because if your choice is to wake up every morning with determination and say, I feel good today, I'm going to have a great day, no matter what shows up in front of me, I'm going to choose the philosophy of possibility. I'm going to choose to look at my day and what's possible for me on this day. I'm going to choose to be an optimist. There's a big tool, there's a big reward in choosing optimism in life as opposed to negativity, or as opposed to keeping yourself in your stance of belief, of righteousness. You know, one of my teachers once said to me, Anne-Marie, I'm going to share my opinion with you, but it's only my opinion. It's not that important. And I found that so interesting that he put himself in that position where he's sharing something with me, an opinion, and it's his opinion, and he did it in a way that he hoped could be helpful to me. And he was also humble and mindful enough to say, it's only my opinion. It's not the truth. It's just my opinion. And I have been practicing that ever since, especially when I get in conversation with people where I find it challenging because their points of view can be so different to mine. And then I remember I have a certain education. I have a certain life experience. So I might have an opinion about something, but it's not the truth. It's my opinion. I might think that someone did something that was not right, or that they could have done better. But that's just my opinion. And we have to be mindful, because once we start to have too many opinions about people, there tends to be a judgment that starts to come in. And then judgment, of course, we all know, is a direct path to a downward spiral. Judgment doesn't help anyone. Opening up your heart to having an opinion and interested in exchanging and hearing what someone else might have to say, then we can move into a level, a layer of discussion, of intelligent, mindful discussion. But before we can get into mindful discussion with another, we have to practice that mindful discussion with ourselves. So what is it in your life that is essential for you? What are the musts in your life? What must you have in order to have a healthy, loving, balanced life? And then What are your add-ons? What are the extra things that you consume in your life that there might be some level of addiction to because it soothes you in the moment? It gives you a little quick fix. And there's nothing wrong with any of it. I am inviting you into an exploration of it from a heart-centered approach to open up our consciousness, to open up the possibility of viewing things from another person's perspective. Sometimes people surprise us. If you have people in your life and we think, oh, this person will never change. It's impossible. She or he has been like this forever. And then you already treat them or you think about them in a way that they have been in the past. Like you approach someone in a way where, oh, I know what their answer is going to be. I know how they're going to respond to this because you've already made up your mind that you know who this person is. And the truth is, you have known some people in your life who have changed, don't you? Maybe it's yourself. You have changed in your life. Other people can change. This is why I'm inviting you to look at it, excuse me, from the perspective of a blank slate. And it's a really good way to relate with addiction and consumption. Every single day, start with a blank slate, a new canvas upon which you can draw and write your poetry, right? That you can design and create your own life. Every day is a new opportunity, right? That's my relationship with the philosophy of possibility. Every day we have an opportunity to begin again, to try again. This is why I say if we fall off our chair, and we will, and we do, the immediate practice is to go into, okay, I forgive myself today for having fallen off. See, that's the real test, is to be able to fall off, to acknowledge ourselves with love and kindness, and to get back up and to begin again. The forgiveness piece is crucial because otherwise we get addicted to self-punishment. It's very easy to punish ourselves. I will say, my negative self-talk, if I decide to go on that route and start to punish myself, it goes down quickly, right? Oh, I'm not good enough. I should have done this better. What was I thinking? Or who am I to do these Facebook Lives, right? Nobody wants to hear from me. I'm, after all these years of practicing negative self-talk, I will tell you from personal experience, it doesn't help to give you a more fulfilling and loving and satisfied life. Over time, as we age, this relationship to falling into our midline, into our heart space, is so incredibly fulfilling because life becomes easier when we can look at our addictions and what we consume. And you'll notice your negative self-talk, that's a consuming activity. Why is my life this way? Why did my children turn out that way? Why didn't I go and get my master's or doctorate? Why am I finding living in this environment? How come I didn't do better? How come I didn't get a better job or I'm not making more money? These are all dead-ended questions. You can't ask these questions and get a positive response. So we have to get better about asking better questions and noticing where you are in the moment, the reality of your life in the moment. Well, for many, many, many of us, not everyone, but for many of us in this culture, we have a lot. We have running water. We have access to clean air. We can travel for the most part, right? There are options, there are resources out there for us. So this is what I mean about the basics of what you need. What are your musts in terms of living a balanced life? My sense is, based on my practice, is that more of us need more time to be quiet, to take some space to, whether you call it meditation or prayer or a time of reflection or contemplation, and to really look at our lives and to fall into this sense of appreciation for what we have right now, without thinking about what's next and what might I need to get next. Because there is a true, profound neurological addiction, especially at this time. And I suspect it's going to get more and more as we develop more sophisticated technology. And technology is amazing because there is a lot of technology that actually supports us in wanting to slow down. Meditation apps are such a way. You have all types of medical applications now that you can tap into to find out, what your breathing level is at this moment, or what your heart rate is, or if your blood pressure is up or down. These are useful applications, again, as long as we don't get addicted to them. Because if you have to check, it's like your credit score, right? I have some people in my life who check their credit score several times per day. Right? They're so addicted to the idea that they have to keep their credit scored at this way because the credit score is the basis for their financial success on every level. And I'm not saying a credit score is not important. It's more, how do we go about checking on these things in our lives? What is at the forefront of your mind that keeps the hamster wheel moving, and that therefore affects how you move your actions in life? So I hope that this is making sense. If you have any comments or you want to share anything with me, please do so in the comments. It's a little bit of a deep dive. I said it would be a deep dive today, and I'm really going a little bit deeper into what I am experiencing as a practitioner and what I want to invite you into. Essentially, is to slow down and to really observe what are necessities in your life and what are add-ons. And as you explore those, where do you tend to grasp in those areas? And what would happen if you chose to let go? Okay, taking a breath. I'm just looking at my notes here. So here is a few notes on what I want to share with you about what, let's see, the tools that we can explore in order to fight our monkey mind, the thinking mind, the anxiety that builds within us. And the first thing, of course, that I always talk about is for us to move into more awareness. And mindfulness is a great way to go, right? So practicing some type of mindfulness meditation, some type of contemplation, but the kind where you're really not doing anything, right? It's really hard. So I have clients who tell me all the time, well, Anne-Marie, I have my coffee in the morning. And while I have my coffee, this is my time to meditate. And that's good. And what I want to challenge you a little bit, lovingly challenge you, is to not have your cup of coffee and meditate or to sit in contemplation, to actually simply sit. And when you sit and you focus on your breathing, this is an actual technique that we practice where you bring yourself to a halt. You're not reading, you're not drinking your coffee, you're not fitzing with something, you're not stretching, you're not doing yoga. This is a specific mindfulness technique where you are simply sitting. And there's a way that we sit. We sit with a nice long spine, right? We put our hands on our thighs. If you're sitting in a chair, right, face down or face up, the hands. And then you close your eyes. And sometimes for some people, closing their eyes might be too much. For some people, sometimes when we close our eyes, it might arise or a memory of trauma might show up. So if you cannot close your eyes, don't close your eyes, but focus on something in front of you. It could just be a point in front of you. Soften the gaze of your eyes, soft eyes. And you get into this position and you just sit there for a while. And the invitation here is to feel what is happening in your body without trying to solve anything. We're not trying to solve anything. We're just noticing. Part one of any type of meditation practice is really bringing ourselves in a state of present awareness. And that's a beautiful way to practice mindfulness, because this helps tremendously with your monkey mind. Monkey mind means a lot of thoughts going on all the time. Now, some people will say to me, Anne-Marie, when I sit and I slow down and I calm down, my mind starts to go crazy, right? More thoughts start to come in because you're choosing to stop. That's a very normal situation that occurs for all of us when we sit down. This is why we practice sitting down. And I'm not asking you to sit down for 30 minutes. You can start with 5 minutes. Simply sitting. Keep your eyes open if you have too many thoughts rushing through your head. Keep your eyes open. Sit consciously. Feel your back body, hands on thighs. You can keep staring, gentle gaze in the eyes, and focus simply on your breath. And that alone is enough to get started, because you're going to start to feel sensations in your body. And if you do this for 5 minutes a day, what starts to happen is that every day you do it, you might sit a little bit longer. You might become a little bit more conscious every day. And what that does for you in your everyday life is that you start to train your brain to be in a calmer resonance, so that you're not constantly bombarded with thoughts. Because when we're constantly bombarded with thoughts, that affects your physiology. So people who are thinking all of the time tend to have more anxiety in their lives. And a lot of the thoughts that tend to come up are thoughts that are diminishing thoughts, minimizing thoughts. Again, moving towards the I'm not enough component. I haven't done enough. I'm not good enough. So we want to practice this possibility of sitting in stillness and just tapping into our heart space, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Don't do anything else. That's the challenge, right? You're not drinking coffee. You're not doing anything with your hands. You're simply sitting and you're bringing yourself in a state of present awareness. And as you practice this, what starts to happen, you focus on your breath and you feel your body sensations. And a lot of the time, what will come up is an emotion. So you might notice that you're feeling sad in that moment. You might notice that you're feeling regret in that moment. You might notice that you're actually feeling pretty good about your life in that moment. What it does is that it helps us to get in touch with how we feel and the intelligence of your body, right? This is what I'm inviting you to tap into, is the inner intelligence of your body that a lot of the time we completely ignore. We don't tap in to our bodies. We act on automatic pilot. So when we can tap into our bodies and feel a sense of loneliness, a sense of sadness, it's okay to be feeling these things, because the closer you get to how you feel, the more you become friends with your emotions and how you feel, the less the charge. Meaning, if you feel lonely, alone in your life, sit with the sensation of loneliness. You see how the relationship to addiction would be for you to want to stop feeling lonely. You don't want to feel lonely because you only get deeper into feeling lonely. It gets worse and worse and worse. That's not the technique I'm inviting you into. It's to just sit with it for a moment. You don't want to go down and increase the level of loneliness. Just feel it as it is right now. Get in touch with this sensation, because your relationship to feeling lonely has a lot of information to share with you. And it's not into the question of, oh, why am I feeling so lonely right now? Why am I so alone right now? You just get in relationship to the sensation of it. Be friends with the sensation. And because you are entering into a relationship to the emotion and the sensation, it tends to diminish the charge of the loneliness. Okay? Does that make sense? So if you're feeling sad on any given day, feel the sadness. Be okay with the sadness. We all feel sadness. We all feel loneliness. To be with the sensation of it and not to want to jump out of what we're actually feeling, because the jumping out is where the addictions are created, this distraction to not being in the present moment. And the reward for being in the present moment is that it diminishes the charge. And then you can actually get to know yourself. Good morning. Hi. Lovely to have you here. Welcome. Thank you for the heart space. Thank you. So I'm just talking about sitting in emotions, sitting into what arises as a means to deal with our addictions and consuming all the time or grasping outside of ourselves. So I'm talking from a much deeper perspective. It's not just material things. It's the high of wanting to feel good all the time. That's an addiction. And I'm very familiar with this one because I love to feel good all the time. But this addiction to wanting to feel good all the time has prevented me in my past from actually being in relationship to what was really occurring in the present moment. And so we want to be able to be in the present moment and to experience, to be with our feelings. Where are you in your life today? What has shifted for you? What's it looking for? Like, what's the future looking like for you by practicing to be more and more in the present moment, to be in relationship with your emotions, to not be afraid to feel what you're feeling. And once you have this relationship with your feelings, just know also, very important, that everything in life, and you will all agree with me on this one, everything in life changes. Everything in life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same, even though it might look like it at times. And that should be a very comforting feeling. I know it might not be for everyone. Some people hate change. I get that. To understand, though, that the nature of life is to change, that it's impermanent. So when you're feeling a deep feeling of sadness or loneliness or anger, know that this too shall pass. Things change. People change. People change. To have faith into the process of your own life, to have faith in yourself and to trust yourself. Be kinder, more loving, more gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself for anything that might not have worked out in the past, and see this moment as a new blank slate. That's how we deal with addiction and consumption, that we don't keep doing the same things over and over again and hoping that things will get better. No, things won't get better if we do things the same way over and over again. In order for things to change, in order for us to be more whole, more full, more mindful, more connected to our lives, we might have to take different actions, make different decisions, invest in different activities so that our life changes for the better, so that we might come into full alignment with our hearts and soul. Does that make sense? I hope this makes sense. Okay. So tool number one was to connect, do a little exploration into a type of meditation technique. And there are so many apps that you can connect with to help you move into a meditation technique. And sometimes I find it helpful to listen to guided meditation. I love some of there's one person I love, and you might want to look her up. Her name is Sarah Blondin. Sarah is Sarah, Blondin, Blondin, Sarah Blondin. She is from Canada. I think she's even from Quebec. She's French Canadian, I believe. And she does these beautiful, beautiful meditations. You can find her on Insight Timer. But if you just Google her name, Sarah Blondin, she has beautiful meditations and they're guided, right? And I love them. Those really help me to bring myself centered. And I just kind of listen to her for a moment. And then I take a moment after I listen to her to just kind of be in this space of contemplation. There's a lot to be said about contemplation. That might be a different talk. So, to invite you into a mindfulness meditation, to sit in the present moment, to connect with how you feel with your breath, 5 minutes a day. Don't do anything else. That's the invitation. And the second part to it is that you might want to focus on breathing meditation. So just sitting and focusing on your breath for about 5 minutes. And a lot of the time, how you can do this really effectively is to inhale through the nose. You hold it for a few beats and then you exhale through the mouth. You inhale through the nose. You hold it for a few beats. And you exhale through the mouth. And what this technique does, it helps to regulate your nervous system. So if you're feeling yourself being in a fight, flight, or freeze, if you get super anxious, if you wake up in a bad mood or you're not feeling well, practice this very simple breathing technique just a few times to regulate your nervous system and to get out of your crises of anxiety in that moment. These are very, very simple tools that can help you and will change your life. Okay, I'm leaving you with these two techniques this morning. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you for being here with me. I should be in New York next week. Today I am in Montreal. I visited my family, which was, of course, amazing and a really wonderful, fertile ground to explore our addictions, our habitual patterns of acting, of being. You know, family circles are the best learning ground because no one knows us quite like our family in the way that our family knows us, right? As the youngest of my siblings, everyone has a very different approach and relationship to me, right? When you're the youngest one, everyone went before you. And so they have a very different relationship to how they grew up. And it's certainly true in my family. And when I find myself in my family environment, there are so many opportunities to practice these grounding techniques, to notice our patterns of being, right? Because no matter what, I'm always going to be the youngest in the family. And so there are these different ways that we negotiate, that we're together in our families, that are so helpful to observe and to be with. And you can see a lot of the patterns arising. You know, everyone has a certain role. It's just how it is as humans and how we are in society and in particular in family. So one spiritual teacher, I can't remember who it was right now, but he said, if you think you are enlightened, go spend a weekend with your family. And I think that's so good because usually in our family circles, that's when a lot of the patterns arise. Sometimes triggers arise. And it's such a beautiful environment to practice. This is why I really encourage you to tap into your heart, to first practice loving kindness with yourself, compassion with yourself. Practice these very simple meditation techniques that I'm inviting you into 5 minutes a day, just to sit in silence and to tap into your body felt senses and also to tap into your breathing. All right, my friends. Thank you for being here. I have a newsletter, a short video newsletter that goes out every Thursday morning. If you are not on my video newsletter, here, let me write my website here where you can Art of Alignment. academy.com / I think it's blog. Yes. Okay. So here is my website, artofalignmentacademy.com / blog. If you want to sign up for my weekly newsletter, it's a short video newsletter. And what I usually do is I talk about the topic that I'm going to introduce the following week. And these are the deep dives. Every Monday, we do these together. We dive deeply into a topic. And then on Thursdays is just a little piece of it to invite you into the exploration of what we're going to discuss. And I also have offers in my newsletter every week for my structural integration practice, my Hello Work practice, where you can come see me if you're in New York City. You can book your appointment, come get some alignment work, some mind-body alignment work where it's actually very physical. I help you to get realigned in your body. And we also have very specific themes that we discuss during your session to help you process any emotions in your body. It's a wonderful technique. I've been doing it for over 15 years. I love it. You can see testimonials about it on my website. If you want to learn more about it, please do visit my website. I really hope to see you next week. I send you love and thank you for my family for being here. I appreciate you. I love you. I feel the support and it's really deeply, deeply appreciated. I love you guys. Bye, everyone. I hope to see you next week, Monday, 11 a.m. Same place, same time. Have a great week.